Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of PCA Live 3 at 3. Today we've got a great lineup. I'm actually really looking forward to this because I really want to learn a lot more about this brand. Heard so many great things about it, and so I'm really looking forward to learning all about La Barba from Tony Bellatto. And to do the interview today, we have Christine Morgan, who was, PCA's resident cigar expert. So I'm really excited to hear Christine and Tony's conversation and to learn more about Tony. And Tony's got a long history in the business, from what I understand. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that and his family and their background. So we'll have a great treat in store for you all today. So Christine and Tony, welcome to the PCA Live 3 at 3. How is everybody doing?
Great. How are you?
Hey, not so bad.
Wonderful.
As it goes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Tony.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and talking beforehand, you said that it's finally a nice day in Youngstown, so I really appreciate you, kind of staying indoors for this time period right now, because I know it'd be nice to be able to be outside walking around, maybe having a cigar. So
the one of 3 nice days we have up here.
Right. We've had a couple of consecutive ones. Little humid today, but
yeah,
it's been a weird spring.
It has. So
weather-wise, yeah,
exactly. Well, yeah, I appreciate you. Like I said, I'm really looking forward. I'm going to sit back and I will play my good old comment ninja role here, and if I jump in and out, but I really just want to sit here and listen, because like I said, I'm really looking forward to learning a lot more about your brand, Tony, and your background and your history. And I know that Christine's a big fan of your product line, and so look forward to listening to you two chat. And I will turn the time now over to Christine. So thank you again for joining us, Tony.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
So, Tony, as Scott said, you do have like a big history in the industry. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd you get started? How long have you been doing what you're doing? Tell us about your brand. Tell us about La Barba and Tony Bellatto.
So 1972-ish, my grandfather used to be a magazine and book delivery man. And he ran numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the statute of limitations is up on this. I don't think they're going to arrest a 95-year-old man, so I can tell you the story. So my grandfather used to run numbers, and this lady, her name was Mrs. Banish. She owned a school supply store, and she owed the bookies all this money. So my grandfather said, basically, I'm going to take your store, and I'll let you live in the apartment upstairs. Forever, for free, for life, but I'm going to take your store. And that's how my grandfather got into basically the business of selling just books and magazines and candy and cigarettes. I mean, this was in the late 60s. My dad got involved in 1972, and that's when they joined the RTDA at the time, which is now the PCA. So they went to the trade show. They rented a station wagon because they thought they were going to bring back whatever they bought at the trade show. They didn't realize that, the manufacturers would send it to them. So they drove out to New York, and at the time, each one of the manufacturers, instead of having trade show booths, had hotel suites. So they would go each one of the hotel rooms and sit with the manufacturer and talk with them. My dad was just telling me the other day that him and my grandfather were in Carlito Fuente's booth with him and his dad, Carlos, and not one single person walked in for 4 hours. They didn't sell any cigars at all.
Really?
In 1972, yeah. So my dad was one of the first people in the country to sell Fuente cigars, as well as Ashton. And my dad was a big distributor for it in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I got involved in 2005 after I graduated from college. My dad was opening a new store and needed help, and I was really into wine, so I was going to wine school to become a certified sommelier. So my dad was kind of like, we need to take the stores in a new direction, adding some things to them to make it more of a destination instead of a pop in, pop out. So we added a full bar, and I added the wine program and a spirits program in about 2005. And then 2012-ish, I started La Barba Cigars. That kind of happened unintentionally. My dad was friends with, and still is friends with, Tom Lazuka from Asylum, and Tom was a salesman that used to call on my dad, and he knew this kid named Robert Caldwell that had a cigar factory in Miami called Wynwood Cigars.
Oh yes.
So Tom suggested maybe that, that because of my background in wine, it would be interesting to see what would happen if I went down to Miami and met Robert and started blending cigars. So I did that with Robert for a while down there. And then from there we met William Ventura and his son Henderson. William Ventura was a quality control manager and master blender for Davidoff for 35 years or so, and
oh wow,
retired and opened up a very small cigar factory with his son Henderson, who at the time was in his late 20s. And we started in about 500 square feet in Tamboril. And he produces the Caldwell Cigar Company cigars, as well as my cigars, and he also produces Room 101 Farce for Matt. So we've kind of grown with them, and we're all friends and family oriented. That's kind of our thing. We want to do business with our friends and our family. I grew up with that strong like Sunday dinner thing and always being around my family and my friends. And so did Robert, and that's kind of how our ethos for doing business. So doing business with the Venturas is really important to us because it's the same thing. It's a father and son team, and we were growing with them instead of separately, and we're just doing our thing and having a good time.
Yeah. So they're all part of the Down and Back group.
So Down and Back kind of came from. So I was doing all of everything by myself for La Barba. I was buying the boxes, the cellophane, the barcode labels, the cigar rings, doing the tobacco, importing them, doing all that, and doing it all out of my store here in Ohio. And we were growing at a pace that I couldn't handle. And I finally went to Rob and I said, hey, would you guys ever consider bringing me on board to do the distribution out of Miami so that I could get on the road and go see cigar stores and kind of build the brand a little bit better? So we made a deal, and that's how kind of Down and Back was born. So essentially Down and Back distributes Caldwell Cigar Company and La Barba Cigars. And so that's that Down and Back kind of story.
Yeah. Part of the cigar family. Building businesses together. Well, tell us more too, because I know you're more than just La Barba. You have a lot of stuff going on outside of that.
I do. So in the cigar world, we have La Barba, and we also have Lost and Found. Lost and Found is a really cool project that Rob and I started in between Wynwood and Caldwell Cigar Company. And at the time, Rob was going around and we were kind of just shooting at the hip, and he was going to different factories, and he would walk into a factory and start talking to these people or these warehouses, and they would have cigars that were either earmarked for something else, or, for example, there was a limited when a cigar manufacturer does a limited edition, they make sure that they have more cigars than they're actually releasing, in case there's off color, or in case there is differences in like the shade of the wrapper, from like if it almost looks like a barber pole, because it can be light on one end and dark on the other.
Yeah.
But Rob was bringing back these fantastic cigars, and he would always send them to me and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And they were fantastic. Or I would be in Miami, and he would have a bunch in his humidor, and he would give them to me. And I said, well, what's the deal with these? And he's like, they've been sitting around these aging room for, 5, 7, 10, sometimes 15 years without a home. And I said, well, what if we, ask these guys if they'll sell us this kind of lost cigars. And so we started off doing that. And I think the first one we had was there was 500 cigars. Some of them are 100 cigars. It all depends on what they have, in the warehouse. And we just recently did this. We're kind of taking Lost and Found in a new direction. We did a brand called No Free Lunch.
Yes.
100% of the proceeds of that are going to feed people in need. And I think at the end of the project, we're going to feed between 30 to 35,000 people. We have another project coming that's going to help clean up ocean plastic. We're partnering with a group in Hawaii that cleans up ocean plastic. So it's a really fun initiative for us because right now seemed like a good time to help as much as we could, and that's sort of how we ended up launching it. We've had the idea for a couple of years now, but we haven't really pulled the trigger on it. And then we had a discussion and said, this is the time where we're going to have to pull the trigger because a lot of people are out of work, and a lot of people are out of money and really need help. So I think it's a good project, and I want to continue giving back with the Lost and Found brand as much as we can.
Yeah. Didn't you you did the no free lunch really recently, correct?
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago we launched it. Yeah.
Are you going to do a second round of that soon? I missed out on the first round. Unfortunately, I saw it.
Yeah. We have a couple more. I have a big laundry list of things that I have to get done for it. We have a couple more coming out. We have a bundle of 20 that we found that we're going to do for no free lunch, and a couple other things, some bundles of 10. So we're going to do a couple more. But the nice thing about it is we partnered with one of the partners we had is from Texas, and it's Renegade Cigar Lounge, and he donated on top of what we donated. He donated. We did it a store exclusive for him, and he donated all of his proceeds to North Texas Food Bank. So I mean, it's really like a pay it forward kind of project, which has been really fun for us to do.
I love it. That's awesome. So apparently we're smoking the same cigar, correct? The Ricochet?
Yes.
Tell us about this cigar. I love this cigar.
So Ricochet was, we started with La Barba Red and La Barba Purple in 12 count boxes. La Barba Red is a Dominican Corojo wrapper, which is unhybridized. We're one of the lucky few that have access to unhybridized Cuban Corojo tobacco, especially Dominican grown unhybridized Corojo tobacco. Our grower and fermenter Leo Reyes has a field in Navarrete, which is kind of west of Santiago. And where his farm is one of the only farms in the Dominican Republic that was not affected by blue mold.
Wow.
Which is ironic, which is awesome because they were able to continue to grow the unhybridized Corojo seed instead of making it. I mean, there's been a lot of great things that have come out of that, like Criollo 98 and Habano 2000 and a lot of things. But we really like that unhybridized Corojo that we use. And then I had La Barba Purple, which was the first cigar that was made at Henderson's, and that's an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper with a tobacco in it called Carbonell. And Carbonell was a brand that I remembered from the cigar boom, like the big one in the 90s. And my dad used to sell it way back in the day. And the tobacco is very floral and aromatic, and they use, instead of growing corn or soy in the second part of the growing season, they grow sugar beets. So the tobacco pulls up what the sugar beets leave behind and makes it very floral and aromatic room smell and aroma. So we had those going for about 6 years before I released a new cigar. Ricochet, the San Andres, I released at the 17 PCA, I think, 16 or 17. But this is our first 25 count box. It's the wrapper's Mexican San Andres. The wrapper is Indonesian Sumatra, and the filler is Pennsylvania broadleaf, Nicaraguan Criollo 98, and some Dominican Habano Walta Bajo. So it's a very medium-bodied Maduro. It's very sweet. It's very aromatic, and it's been our most successful cigar to date. We have a Robusto, Corona, Toro, and 660. But I mean, by far, it's been lights out. with the Ricochet project, the Maduro, and we just did a Habano Mexican sun-grown wrapper as well.
Right. Very nice. It's really good. One of my favorites to smoke right now. So good job. So Wes is here in the comments saying that Havana House and you throw the best Halloween parties.
Oh, our Halloween parties are famous. Yeah, he was up for one.
Was he? Tell us about the event side of things for you. Since he brought up that, feel free to share Halloween party stories. Yeah,
so we've been doing some crazy events up here. The last one I actually DJ'd. I've been closet DJing in my basement for a couple of years now, so I finally decided to bring out the DJ skills for the last one. We do our own barrel picks and tequila and whiskey, and we release those at the parties. And I partner with. I also have a coffee company, and we partner with a bunch of local breweries with that. So we'll release coffee beer or barrel aged tequila, and we'll invite cigar manufacturers to come up for the Halloween party. But we've crammed a couple hundred people in here for our parties. It's been pretty nuts. From time they go till 5, 6 in the morning sometimes.
Oh God, I couldn't hang. I couldn't last. Sounds like fun though. Is that where you're broadcasting from? I'm in my office. So how have things been for you with all this COVID stuff? Are you guys back fully operational or?
Yeah, I mean, luckily and unluckily, I'm in Ohio, so the state closed really early, but on the back end of things, we're opening back up earlier than most. So everything in Ohio is now fully open. Gyms, restaurants, pools, are all fully operational with restrictions. I had to change my floor plan here, put up barriers, and our employees have to wear masks. But it hasn't been terrible. We had carry out curbside and to go the whole time. And our regulars and the people that support the stores have been fantastic and have kept supporting us from home. And my employees have done, we were talking earlier about the future of the cigar business and where it's going. And I think, I think the Zoom events are going to stick. And I think, my employees did a very good job of having some Zoom stuff with our customers. They would sit on their back patio and, they would say, okay, cigar of the week is, so cigar of the week is Crowned Heads. So then everybody would come in and buy Crowned Heads, and at the end of the week they would have like a herf, what they call them, and talk about the cigar and the pairings and their experience and so on and so forth. And I've been doing a lot of those the past 2 months with different retailers across the country, and they've been a lot of fun.
Barba.
Yeah. I mean, usually I'd have my collared shirt on and just a pair of boxers.
Right. This is like the modern day mullet. Business up top, whatever you want down below, because nobody can see anything else. Yeah.
Correct.
Beauty of doing like Zoom calls. So when you do these events with for La Barba, like how are they structured? Do you have multiple retailers or consumers involved in it, or is it just like a broadcast like this?
No, what we've done is the ones we've structured have been kind of a little bit more liberal. We haven't had like a passcode to get in or anything like that, but it's more like, okay, so from 2 to 6 curbside we'll be featuring La Barba, and at 8 or 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time we're going to do a Zoom herf, and whoever wants to come on can come on. And then like the owner of the store, the manager of the store kind of is the MC of the event.
Okay.
And will kind of direct an event around the cigars. I'll tell the story, and they'll do raffles and giveaways and stuff like that. But it's been a really cool a really cool way to do things, because a lot of people, when you do an event at a store, it's really fast paced, and it's hard to, because when stores are busy and coming in and out, it's really hard to tell your story, and it's really hard to sit down and talk to somebody for more than 5 or 10 minutes, because people are trying to grab your attention, ask about the cigars, which isn't a bad thing. It's just I think that a mixture of both is really good, in that retailers can really have some time with the manufacturers to chat, and it doesn't cost $10,000 to do an event. A big event, it's you get some business on like a Tuesday, and I'm not doing anything on Tuesday, so I'd be more than happy to come on and chat with everybody. So it's been fun for me.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like, how things work a lot at the trade show. On the show floor, everything is busy, busy, busy. But then afterwards, at the Circle Bar, whatever, happy hour events that there are, that's really the opportunity to sit down and tell your story in kind of the same way.
Well, and that's how I built, to give props to the trade show. That's how I built my brand. It was, we would go as retailers, and do our business, and then at night at the Circle Bar, I would tell my story about the brand that I was trying to create, and then that led me to get a small trade show booth, and then from there it was history. We've just grown. We've grown because of the show, and because of RTDA, IPCBR, PCA.
Yes,
over the years, I've done them all.
Yeah, you got them all. Yeah.
Hopefully
we won't change it again anytime soon. I've just started getting used to saying PCA.
I like PCA. I think you guys should stick with that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Covers it all. And the logo. I like the logo personally. So what's the next Zoom event you're doing? Do you have one scheduled?
I do not have one scheduled. Actually, I'm starting to schedule in-person stuff. I have a dinner with Jim Clark in Cincinnati, Strauss Tobacconist, who also has been a member, I think, for 50 years or something. He's one of my dad's best friends. He does a dinner at this barbecue, high-end barbecue place called Montgomery Inn. So it's a cigar dinner that I'm doing down there at the end of the month. So it's nice that I'm actually starting to, things are opening up, and I'm actually going to start to get back on the road here and do some fun stuff like that. But I don't have anything planned. I hope I don't.
Yeah, well, if you do, let us know.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Be nice to go to events again. So how do you think with all of this, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show, but how do you think all this coronavirus, the social distancing restrictions, if they stick, like, how do you think that that's going to affect events and attendance at events, and how do you think we can combat them?
Well, unfortunately for the cigar business, it's kind of difficult to have a cigar with a mask on. And, but I think at the same time, the nice thing about a lot of lounges is they are, you never really sit close to somebody else. It's, you're kind of isolated in the chair. Yeah. I think that things will eventually get back to normal. I think the summer's pretty much shot, but, I think that like we were talking about, I think that the best way to interact with your customers is to do the Zoom events and let guys, kind of enjoy their cigar and on their own time and in their own environment. If they're nervous about coming in or nervous about doing a big event with a lot of people. Yeah.
I've seen groups sitting out in parking lots and just in chairs, socially distant, definitely, or in their cars. Apparently I saw an article about a group in New York somewhere that did that.
I did see that. It was like a car club, right? And they all.
Yeah. They all just. Our group will always find ways to be innovative and smoke and get together. I saw about the mask. I actually saw somebody post on Instagram a full tobacco leaf that they'd had over their face. They were smoking the cigar through the tobacco leaf. I'm like, well, that's one way to.
That's aggressive.
I know. I think it was in Europe somewhere. That's one way to do it, right? I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Can we add a different? I mean, because it covers the nose and the mouth. Maybe there's some marketing opportunity there with some full tobacco leaves.
It's a lot of be a big buzz throughout the day, I think.
Oh God. All inhaling all that nicotine right in front of you. Because I mean, it was a full leaf. It was probably one of the craziest things I've seen somebody do besides like smoking through their mask, which I've definitely seen a lot of that.
I saw a guy he had taken a milk gallon and cut the bottom off of it and then put it on his face and then stuck the cigar through the hole of the milk carton.
Through the cap?
Yeah, like the cap end. Yeah.
I had not seen that. Who is that?
I gotta find. It was like I just saw it in passing. I'll find it and shoot it over to you if I find it.
Way to be innovative, right? There really has been a lot of that. This is, one of the things that makes me proud to be in this industry. Everybody's taking everything in stride, and like the Zoom events, like what you're doing. So it's been really nice to see that people aren't cashing it in and giving up. I mean, we have to. We're all here because of the passion for the industry, and clearly you are too. You grew up with it also.
Correct.
So.
I mean, it really has been amazing seeing through, on a national scale, the support that consumers have for their brick and mortar and their retailer, in these times. I know a lot of people had to close, and we're not really we're an industry with a lot of independent owners, and these guys had to close their stores. But I noticed a big push of support for a lot of them, and just having conversations with the retailers that carry my cigars is that the customers have really come out and really started to, and I think it's also a good thing because, Main Street, has been in trouble for a long time. And I think that this whole thing is giving people some clarity on what they take for granted, in that, when you go into a cigar store, I mean, it's a curated experience, right? You're not going there like you're going to grocery or a Walmart, because we're selling a high-end luxury item that there's so many and especially in a time like this when there's thousands and thousands of great cigars, in the industry, you can really tailor, fit a cigar for your customer. And that's what all these tobacconists are doing now is they're really, the experience that a customer has when they walk into a cigar store is way different than when they go to the gas station. And I think that's going to save our industry. And I think people are, since people have been isolated and quarantined, I think that they're kind of craving that personal attention, in whether or not they're buying wine or cigars or high-end liquor, and I think that it's going to be when we come out of all this, I think it's going to be a really good time for Main Street and small business to capture those people back.
And get that because people are going to be thirsty to go out and have experiences beyond their back patio or inside their home, in their man room, whatever.
Yeah, and get that curated, that curated experience.
Sure. Yeah. Everyone gets mad at me, but I always say it's more than a cigar is not just about the cigar. It's everything that, you're talking about, crafting the experience. It's exactly what it is. It's who you're smoking with, what you're drinking, what the weather's like. Can you smoke inside? Can you smoke outside? Are you smoking alone or with somebody? Are you drinking anything? What are you wearing? If you're going to a lounge, what are you wearing? Yes, Scott. Scott jumping in.
Sorry, question ninja here. This goes back to one of the earlier comments that you made when you finish school. You're going to be a certified sommelier. You bring to it. Wes Thornton made a comment here about how one of the few places where he can kind of give you vague descriptions about what he wants, and you 100% nail the wine he wants. I'm really curious to know, when you talked about this experiential aspect and elevating the retail game part of it, I would just love to know how you approach that, because I think it's interesting, and I think that a lot of retailers are really looking for new ideas or ways that other people are doing these types of things. Because to your point, as we're coming back out of this, I think people are going to be a lot hungrier to recall these type of experiences. But again, just consistently building off of that. So I'd love to just sort of your approach and how you were looking at it, what you've brought from sort of that sommelier aspect of that experience to kind of the cigar experience that you wanted to build there through the shops, and then ultimately, obviously, with La Barba.
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I think there's a couple different.
I was due for a good one, so thank you.
There's a couple different avenues. I don't, in our group of guys, and I'm very lucky to have been connected with, Robert and Hernando and Jeremy, our sales manager, and we've really developed a family. And our goal is to not sell cigars. And I've had that mentality since I started in the industry, because that's the way my dad is. And my intention is to not sell a bottle of wine or a cigar to somebody. It's to sell the experience and to let them know that this is the experience that I had with it, and this is why I think that you'll enjoy it too. And everybody has a different palate. And back to the thousands and thousands of brands that are on the market between cigars, wine, and spirits and coffees. Everybody's going to have a different experience, and everybody has a different palate. And I start off with that, like, you have a completely different palate than me. You might like, more mild, more medium, more full. You might like these flavor notes. But my whole thing is you have to know what you don't like in order to know what you like. So I encourage people to, don't be frustrated if you buy a cigar or a bottle of wine that you may not like. One of the things that we learned in wine school that's kind of stuck with me is that, a lot of people, when the sommelier approaches your table with a bottle of wine and you smell it initially, that interaction is not whether or not you like the wine. It's whether or not the wine is actually bad. By bad, I don't mean not good. I mean spoiled or rotten. And I think that I think that people have the mentality that everything is going to be the greatest thing they've ever had in their entire life, when in reality, like, everybody has a different palate. So you may not prefer this wine or this cigar, but remember why you didn't prefer it, so that when you go next time, you can tailor your taste buds to what you do like. And I've sold a lot of cigars and a lot of bottles of wine to people and they've come back and they were like, "This was the worst thing that you've ever done," and you're like, "Why would you sell this to me?" And I'm like, "Well, this was the first time you were in, so I don't know what you like."
Yeah.
So I think that as a retailer and as a curator of fine goods, I think that our goal is to, now when I taste wine or taste cigars, I don't taste them for myself anymore. It's very rare that I do that. I taste them and I think, oh, Tim might like this, or Jill might like that. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll bring that wine in. So next time I see that customer, same with cigars. Next time I see that customer that I know Jim likes full-bodied Nicaraguan cigars. I know he likes Robustos. Right. So I smoke something, and instead of like, I like that cigar a lot, I might not like it at all. But I smoke it, I'm like, oh, this is his flavor profile. And then the next time he comes in, I'm like, oh, since you've been buying cigars off me for so long, and I remember that time you came in and told me if I ever sold you that cigar again, you were going to kick my ass, then I can give you something that, that you now like, because I've kind of over time remembered and tailored their profiles.
You can sell him something to ensure you don't get your ass kicked, essentially.
Right. Now, do you have it? Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
No, sorry. This is my last thing, and it just kind of reminds me, and it really is ultimately people are not buying cigars as consumption products, right? They're buying them for specific reasons, right? And it's always experiential, whether it's celebrating a birth or a wedding or hanging out or I'm pairing it and all that. And so it very much is along those lines that you talked about, where people are, if I'm investing in a good wine with a good, nice sit down meal, that's very different of what my expectations are, how I expect to be treated and how I expect my palate to essentially be catered to, versus I'm hitting the drive-through because I'm hungry. I need something to sustain me through the afternoon. And it reminds me, we did a wine pairing for a friend of ours' wedding. And so we went back up to where like they basically had their first date or whatever. And I've never really liked sweet wines or port wines, but they did this tasting and then they paired it. And I ate a blue cheese stuffed date and then drank the port. Completely changed it. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually quite good once it goes in the proper context. Plus, we'd had a few drinks. We were having a good time and celebrating. And so in that specific context, the port was good. Outside of that, I'm not so sure I would really enjoy that port wine all that much. But in that specific experience with that right pairing and guidance, absolutely, we were in, we bought it, we had it and everything else. And so for me, it's very similar to kind of what you're describing there, being able to design and curate the proper experience for what the customer wants. And to your point there, the ability to anticipate that the more you get to know the customers, as I think really what makes that tobacconist relationship with the customer so special, and why I don't think it's ever going to go out of style or go away.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And, a lot of, go ahead.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, it is, I mean, Scott's absolutely right. I mean, it's, it's more about the experience than anything else. And people all the time are like, every time I say experience, my Siri pops up. So it is all about the experience and making, and a lot of people are like, oh, I have this wine. What should I save it for? Or I bought, a box of, Royal Robustos. When should I smoke these? And I always say, my big thing is like, when you smoke it, that's the occasion.
Right. I say the same thing.
Cigar,
the cigar's the occasion. Yeah. Exactly.
And then everything else, you create that experience by getting, calling 9 of your friends and like, hey, I got this 10-count box of like lost and found cigars that'll never be around again. Like, we're not doing anything. Let's sit and smoke them. And then you make a whole party out of it. And that's the whole experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, when you have somebody in your shop or somebody at your booth at the trade show or, whatever that may be, do you have any specific questions that you ask people in order to recommend a cigar?
Yeah. I mean, my main question is, what do your customers like to smoke?
Yeah.
And what do you like to smoke? And then even more so, what do you like to sell? Our brands are specifically made for that curation process, like we were talking.
Right.
It's not a brand that you're going to go into a gas station or a store that doesn't necessarily specialize in premium cigars. Right. Our brands are very particular, and they're very they're meant to be curated. And when I talk to retailers or when I talk to my customers in the store, it's kind of the same mentality. Like, these are cigars that are very specialized. These are cigars that are very, very complex, and they're very, very well made. So as long as everybody's aware of that, getting into it, then it works out very well.
Yeah, there's so much time and attention that goes into just perfecting everything. Like, you go in having a specific idea of what you want, right? And you work backwards from there, correct? There's so much that goes into it. It's one of the best things, about the industry. It's not just about, it's not about getting a nicotine buzz because you need a break at the end of a rough day. It's the passion, the history in the industry, the art that it is, all the time and effort. And the legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes 300 people to make one cigar. I mean, which, it's funny because when we bring our customers, whether or not they're consumers or retailers or anybody to the Dominican Republic, and they go through and they experience the magic that we experience. While we're down there, they come back, their minds are completely blown, and it's a completely different experience for them moving forward, in their journey of finding, cigars. And I think that's a lot of what it is too. It's not a sprint, smoking cigars and enjoying tobacco. It's a marathon, and it's an extension of us in the industry. And it's so much different. People that don't smoke cigars or don't understand it, when they do, it's like their head explodes, because they were like, I never thought that this is what it was. That there's a community of these great people, that there's 300 people that it takes to make a cigar, that it's an art form, that it's this more difficult than having a great wine to make a great cigar. And then you light it on fire and it's gone in an hour.
Combustible enjoyment. Yeah. Yeah. And well, I mean, even on the consumer side, all the preparation that goes, preparation and care that goes into it, like just to sit and smoke a cigar. Beyond that hour, what are you cutting it with? What do you light it with? What's your favorite La Barba cigar?
Well, people ask me that all the time. And my answer is they're all my babies.
Oh, that's fair.
So I love them all.
Smoking. Yeah, equally.
But I do smoke different ones during different times of the day. So I like to smoke my La Barba Purple. I have a long Corona.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a long Corona Gorda. It's 6 3/4 by 46.
Okay.
So it's almost like a skinny Churchill or like a long Corona. I don't know. It's not really.
It's like right up my alley.
No real name.
Yeah.
So that cigar to me is unbelievable in the morning with coffee. And then, the red is very good, like Sobremesa cigar, like after dinner with coffee. And then the 2 Ricochets are my night cigars. They're like the Maduro's the fullest and the Mexi Sol is the spiciest. So depending on what I'm drinking, because the Maduro is a little sweeter, so I'll drink something like a bourbon or rye with the Maduro, and the Mexi Sol is a little spicier, so I'll have like a dessert wine or port with that.
Very nice, very nice. Well, what else? Tell us more about Tony outside the cigar industry, because all of us here, believe it or not, maybe we have lives outside the industry. What do you like to do up in Youngstown, Ohio?
I really don't have a life outside of the cigar industry, to be honest. I mean, I only do what I'm passionate about, and that extends outside of the scope of selling cigars and making cigars, and the same goes for wine and spirits. So if I'm not actively engaging in the cigar business, I'm passively smoking and drinking.
That's fair. Wes asked, where did the name La Barba come from?
So originally when the concept for the brand came about, I was just trying to think about my kind of my heritage and how I was brought up. Mm-hmm. So I was brought up in a Italian American family in Youngstown, Ohio. And every time I tell anyone that, they're like, "Oh, were you in the mob?" That's like the first thing that comes out of their mouth, right? So, but I was thinking about my heritage and where I kind of came from, and I grew up in cigar stores and barbershops. And the barbershop I went to, the guy's name was Donnie Marzano, and he would cut hair. He would always wear a 45 open carry on his hip, and he would cut hair and chew tobacco. And that was back in the day when you could smoke cigars in the barbershop. And my dad would go there, and as a little kid, like, I learned all the bad parts of life at the barbershop, like girls and swearing, and I learned how to be a bookie, because I was a bookie at one point at the barbershop. And then my dad at the cigar shop taught me about wine and food and proper manners. So when we started La Barba, that was kind of like the idea was to marry those two kind of rites of passage that I had as a kid in learning the industry.
I like it. Very nice. Now, do you have any jokes for us? I told you to have some jokes prepared. We're going to start your stand-up career here. You've done everything else. I mean, seriously. Why not stand up?
All right, let me think.
I'm kidding. I can't ever think of
I have a couple. I just have to start pulling them out.
Yeah, I know.
So these
you don't
strings,
seriously have to tell jokes. You want?
I got one.
Oh, uh-oh.
So these 2 strings walk into a bar. Call them string 1 and string 2 for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
They walk into a bar, and the bartender goes, we don't serve strings here. And he points behind him. There's a sign that says, we don't serve strings in the bar. So they had a rough day, and string 1 really wanted a margarita. So they go to the next bar, and they're like, maybe we'll get a margarita at this bar. So they walk into the next bar, and as soon as they walk in, the bartender immediately kicks them out and says, we don't serve strings here.
Uh-oh.
So bar after bar after bar, these strings go in, and they're just not getting any attention or any service. So string 1 finally says to string 2, I have an idea. He goes, I want you to punch me in the face.
I
And
want you to
string 2
hit me
goes,
as hard as you can.
yeah, exactly, Fight Club. So string 2 is like, all right. So he punches string 1 in the face, and they get into this huge fight. There's like dust flying, and there's strings flying around everywhere. So string 1 goes, all right, I got it. They go back into the first bar, and the bartender goes, hey, are you the 2 strings that walked in here earlier? And string 1 looks at the bartender and goes, nope, I'm afraid not.
Oh, I'm afraid.
Ba-da-ba.
I like how you just popped in there with the percussion there at the end.
And I got one more. Now
Okay.
you got me started.
Now I got you started.
Yeah. So Doc walks into a bar and says, hey, bartender, you got any grapes? And the bartender goes, grapes? Do you mean grapes? And the Doc goes, no, I mean grapes. You got any grapes? And the bartender goes, we don't have grapes or grapes. You're a talking duck. Get out of my bar. So the Duck waddles out, comes back in the next day, and comes up to the bar, sits down, and says, bartender. And the bartender comes over, same one as the day before, and he's like, okay, what do you want? And the Duck goes, do you have any grapes? And the bartender goes, no, I don't have any grapes. And if you come in here again and ask me for grapes, I'm gonna cut your head off with a pair of scissors. So the Duck leaves and comes back in the next day, comes up to the bar, and the bartender looks at him like, don't you do it. And the Duck goes, hey, bartender, you got any scissors? And the bartender says, no. And the Duck says, you got any grapes?
Ah, that's a good one.
Okay, that just reminded me. I got to jump in on this now. Is it's all these walking into a bar jokes?
I know. Why are all your jokes about bars?
But this fits right in with
The place I go.
Well, no, this is perfect. So, bartender said that all of a sudden this Grasshopper jumps in and sits down on the bar stool. First time he'd ever been in a bar, right? Bartender turns around, looks a little stunned, and then starts kind of laughing. He goes, hey, we actually have a drink named after you. Grasshopper looks at him all suspicious because it's the first time he's ever even met this guy, and he goes, you have a drink called Steve? Because, Grasshopper the drink.
I got it.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah, freely give it.
Well, Wes says, what do clouds do when they get rich? They make it rain. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good, Wes.
Thank you. See, we have such a multi-talented
Thanks,
industry.
Wes. Thank you, Wes.
We have DJ Bellatto here. DJ Sommelier. Yeah, DJ Sommelier. And
Dad Joe Keller.
Yeah.
So instead of how what's his name, the mouse or whatever the DJ's name is that has the helmet on, instead for your DJ persona, you could just have a big wine bottle as your head.
Mm-hmm. Or a cork.
DJ Sommelier or a
corkscrew. There you go.
And these are ideas that are coming when we're not even day drinking here. So
I know.
just imagine how much more creative we get when that actually happens.
Oh, yeah. Does anybody have
a big lighter, like a torch would come out of my head?
Oh, that's a good idea. Would you let people light their cigars off of it?
Yeah, like when the drop would come, it would just a.
There you go.
When the drop would come.
When the beat drops.
Yeah.
Pyrotechnics out of your head. I dig it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen at the trade show.
Absolutely. We'll do a dance off. I will lose, but we'll have a dance off.
That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. Yeah. Well, all right. Anybody else have any other questions or anything? Thank you, Wes. No? Scott? Tony?
No.
Anything else?
It's been good. Although Rodriguez says, what's up, PCA family? How are you, Rodriguez, Oscar? No, I just thanks for joining us. Glad to hear everything's going okay. Hopefully Ohio starts, opening up more and more. And I think Pennsylvania is starting to lose some of their crazy sort of bipolar approach to their aspects. And so we've had some retailers there that now their stores are opening back up and moving forward. So starting to hear some more and more good news starting to trickle in here as things are coming about. So thanks for joining us. All the best to your family. And
thank you.
Look forward to smoking more La Barbas in the future. And
yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you soon and maybe be able to do an event at our townhouse, with La Barba coming up here in a little while once things get back to somewhat of a tepid normal in DC.
Yeah, it's not that far. What is that? 6-7 hours?
No, not even 4. It's
Really?
4.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not far.
Oh,
Because you're
yeah.
just right outside of Pittsburgh, you said, right?
Right.
Mhm.
I think it's like
Yeah, it's like 4.5.
like 4 hours to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I flew when Hernando and I came last time. I flew because we ended up in Southern Virginia, so I didn't want to. That's like 7 or 8 hour drive. So
Yeah.
if I stay
Yeah.
in like DC-ish, Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland, then it's not that far back. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
technically I can get to Maryland in 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the
you're hitting
border?
Northwest,
Yeah.
the northwest area, like Port Frederick and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like falling water is like an hour and 45 minutes from me, and that's like on the border of PA and Maryland.
Yeah.
Never been.
You should make it a trip for sure.
I know. I'd never been to Gettysburg until last weekend. I went ghost hunting up there. So like now that things are kind of starting to open up, and now road trips are the thing because I don't want to fly. So not just yet.
Yeah, well, the drive between DC and Pittsburgh is ridiculously beautiful.
It is.
I drove it one year in the spring to take my son up to a baseball camp up in Pittsburgh, and I drove up 4 hours, dropped him off, and turned around and drove. And I love driving if I don't have to sit in traffic. So I don't blame you for not wanting to drive north to south in Virginia, because what should be like a 2 or 3 hour drive turns into a 3 or 4 day excursion.
Yeah, especially if you're on 95 and visiting a bunch of shops. John wanted to know what part of Southern Virginia you were in.
We were in Virginia Beach. Where's geography wise? Where's Shorty? How far south is he?
He's in Richmond, so he's about an hour and a half south of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So like
Virginia Beach is east from there.
Yeah, we went and saw Shorty, and then we went to the beach, and then I flew out of what's the name of the town? Norfolk.
Norfolk. Yeah. Yeah, nice drive down there though. If you don't have to deal with the traffic.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story about that. So I was
yeah.
Does it involve walking into a bar?
Oh, Glenn's on here. Hi, Glenn.
Actually, it does involve. It involves my dad walking into a bar, which
excellent.
That happens often. So I was a national gymnast, and I was the third best in the nation. Yeah. So I was the third best in the nation at one point in gymnastics. So we had our this. It was a tournament to see if you could start to train for the Olympics. I was like 14 or 15 years old, and it was in Virginia Beach. And my dad, who is a cartoon character, so I don't know if you'll meet him. You guys will meet him at the next show, I'm sure. Maybe I'll drag him to DC. So
you should.
I was at this gymnastics tournaments are like and I was also wrestle, but they're not like a 2 hour thing. They're like a 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. like 14-hour, like the worst, most excruciating thing you have to go through. So I finish, my hands are ripped. I'm in spandex like a unitard. I'm 15, and all I want to do is like take a shower and go to the beach and like pick up chicks. But my dad says that the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is the 8th wonder of the world. And I'm like, I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, we have to go across the 8th wonder of the world. So I said, can we stop at the hotel first? And like, can I change? And no. So we have to drive across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. So the whole time I'm miserable and like complaining and yelling. And my dad's like commenting about how awesome the fact that you go from like a bridge in the water into a tunnel, and how you can see you only see parts of the bridge. But he talked about it for like an hour and a half. And we finally got over the bridge, and we stopped at the first bar, and he had a beer. And then we got back in the car and drove an hour and a half back over to the beach where our hotel was. It was the worst memory of my life. But I made Hernando, when we went down there, I said, we have to drive across the 8th wonder of the world. So we finished our day and had about an hour before we had to go to the airport. And so I made him drive over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge.
Do you stop for a beer too, or no?
We tried, but we got over, and there was, of course, we get over the bridge, and I just typed in like places to drink and over the bridge. But apparently that like town closes down for the winter. And this was like, maybe 3 months ago. Like I think right before the shutdown, we were there.
Yeah, it was like end of February.
Yeah, so we get across, and there was a place called like Crabby Bills or something, and we get across there, and it's in a trailer park. So we pull into the trailer park, and we're looking for this bar, and some guy, I don't know if he like ran the place or what, like came out and looked. He like thought we were trying to like I don't know, rob the place or something, but he was like very upset with us, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And we were like, "We're just looking for Crabby Bills," and he's like, "It's closed." And I was like, "Well, is there a bar we could go to?" And he's like, the whole place closes for the winter. So we didn't even get to like have a beer. We had to just drive back across the bridge. So another terrible experience.
Did you make him wear spandex? Like you had to wear spandex though, going across the bridge?
I should have. I should have brought.
Next time.
I should have. I need to purchase a. I don't know if they make like unitards in his size.
Of course they do. You see the professional wrestlers wear them, don't you?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Again, it's not the eighth wonder of the world if you're not wearing spandex while going across the bridge.
And stop for a beer.
Yeah, stop for
Well, yeah,
a beer,
I have to cover him. I have to cover him in chalk also, just like antique him with chalk.
Absolutely.
Do it again. Next time you're here. Do it again. Do it right.
That's your next cigar, La Barba, eighth wonder of the world.
With a picture of the Chesapeake Bridge.
Covered in spandex.
Yeah, Havana Connection.
Lord.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, the box could be covered in spandex. That'd be kind of funny. Whatever your colors were at the time. There you go.
Do you remember you remember those cups from the 90s that had like the teal and purple? Like those waxy paper cups?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what my uniform was. It was like that, and it was like purple and green, like right out of the 90s. It was like that cup was my uniform.
Though that print is making a comeback though hard. I've seen so many like polos, t-shirts.
I could dig out the singlet.
Yeah, for the trade show 2021 or PCA event.
Yes, that would be.
Do the American Scott? You know, I want to do this so bad at the trade show. The American Gladiator
competition. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another quick funny story about my dad. So my dad is a big golfer. I know he's a scratch. My dad's a scratch golfer.
Oh wow!
But my dad has a problem for some reason with his shirt staying tucked in. For I don't know why. Like when he swings the club or whatever, his shirt always comes untucked. So he was at a very famous golf course. It's very, very. It might have been the Breakers or something like in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And the rules are you have to keep your shirt tucked in at all times, or you get kicked off the golf course. So the greenskeeper came over and yelled at him because his shirt was untucked, and basically said you can finish this round, but if you come back here again without your shirt tucked in, then you can't golf here anymore. So we went back to the hotel where my mom was there. So she made him like a onesie.
A onesie.
She clipped his shirt to his underwear so it wouldn't come untucked.
Oh my God.
So then I was telling him the other day, I'm like, these girls have these onesies that they wear that it like buttons underneath, goes between your legs and buttons. I said, I'm going to get you a bunch of those. So if you ever go to the Breakers again,
oh my gosh,
your shirt stays tucked in.
Yeah, there you go. Whole new marketing idea. You do everything else, create those, but make them like polos or look like button-up shirts.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the new thing.
A bodysuit. That's what it's called. A bodysuit. I knew I'd come up with it. He has so many great stories about his dad. Sometime you'll have to tell him about the one at the trade show in Orlando.
How much time we have? We got.
You want to hear this story?
Well, we are at the hour, but I mean, if it's by all means.
It's hilarious.
I could get it in 2 minutes. So, IPCBR Orlando, 2012. We go to Morton Steakhouse, and we were with Andrew Brennan and Tony Gomez and a couple other retailers, and we were sitting in the middle of the restaurant. And my dad's favorite thing to do is go out to dinner and then smoke a cigar afterwards at the restaurant. So we told him going into this, I said, Dad, you can't light up a cigar inside the restaurant. You can't do it. And he said, well, I don't care. I said, all right. So we get done, and I'm looking at him, and he's got the Torpedo from LaFleur came out that year, and I'm looking at him, and he's like down, like underneath the table, kind of like looking down. I'm like, there's no way he's cutting that cigar right now. So he cuts it, and in the middle of the restaurant, it's like 8 o'clock. So middle of dinner rush, he lights a cigar in the middle of the restaurant. Like not like even close to being inconspicuous about it. Just like laid back, having a glass of wine and smoking the cigar. So the manager comes over and says, she goes, you can't smoke that in here. And he said, well, he goes, why not? And she said, it's against the policy. And he said, well, it's not against the policy where I'm from. I'm a tourist and I'm from out of the state. And he kept making excuses to talk to this lady because he wanted to keep smoking a cigar. So he would yell at him and he would answer the question in like avoiding, the question. And then he would take a puff of a cigar while she's yelling at him, kicking him out of the restaurant. Well, at the same time, a bunch of different groups of cigar manufacturers were in the private rooms, and they had smelled the cigar and they were wondering what was going on. So my dad gets kicked out of the restaurant. He's sitting out on the patio. I go out there and I bring him his wine. And I'm like, you got to stay out here and smoke the cigar. So everybody had at that time had paid their bill and they were walking out of the restaurant as my dad was walking back in to go to the bathroom, and they gave him a standing ovation when he walked back into the restaurant for lighting the cigar in the middle of Morton's. And then at the next day at the trade show, at the very end, well, people were coming up to him all the whole day that knew him. And they were like, I can't believe you lit the cigar in the middle of Morton's. And then at the end of the day, we had a meeting with the manufacturer, and our sales rep comes over and he's like, did you guys hear the story about the guy that lit the cigar in the middle of Morton's? And I just go and pointed at my dad. I said, it was him.
I didn't hear about it. I lived it, man.
Yeah.
I was there. I was the most embarrassed one of everyone. So,
and hearing about it all day long.
And that's why he's a legend.
Yeah. See, this is, I'm trying to compile a cigar stories, coffee table book. That's just the kind of thing we need.
Yeah, he is the eighth one, not the bridge.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you figured out after all these years.
Yeah. Yep. I love it.
Good stuff.
Such great stories.
Yeah, this has been it's been a fun hour. Thank you again for taking time to join us. This is great, and insights into La Barba, your family history with the industry. And so, like we said, can't wait to get you up to DC for an event, but really can't wait just for the time when we can all be together again and enjoying the fine cigars and libations.
Absolutely.
Curated experience.
Thank you guys for having me on, and I'd be more than honored to come back anytime you'll have me.
Yes.
Outstanding. It was great to see you, Tony, and Christine as well. And for everybody else that's listening, thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we've got Jeremy from Salt Lift Tobacco. We'll be talking pipes and pipe tobacco tomorrow. So that'll be fun for us, a little bit of something new and different for us. So we're excited to have Jeremy on tomorrow for our PCA Live 3 at 3. So join us tomorrow at 3. And Tony, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.